Hey guys, it's DrewSpark here from Sentinels, and today I wanted to touch on a topic that came up in my Discord recently. It was all about the Grand Final of VCT events, why the upper bracket team has such a big advantage in that veto, and what challenges the team come from the lower bracket has to face when it comes to adjusting their map pool on the fly. To help demonstrate this, I'm going to be using Fnatic versus EG from Masters Tokyo as a case study. And I'm also going to be using TheJoaquiGamer's recent project that he released on Twitter today. It's a map veto visualizer rather. It's pretty cool. I've been messing around with it for a little bit now. And yeah, like I encourage you guys to give TheJoaquiGamer a follow and to, yeah, test out his application and let him know if there's anything that you would like to see. I'm going to showcase some of the features as well that you could do with it. The first thing I'm going to do actually is just bring up the different vetoes that exist in international play right now. Don't really play best of ones, it's just the best of threes and the two forms of best of fives. And they are as follows. Like the best of threes, just as you expect. Both teams ban 2 maps, and you are either coin flipped into team A or team B, or the team that has the highest seed is allowed to choose. Now, I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty of why you would go to Team A or Team B, but just understand that it is a significant difference. One team is obviously able to choose which map to ban first and also which map to start the series on, while also picking a couple of sides, while the other team is able to defer that choice of banning a map or picking a map first to the other team, which could be an important decision to make if you have intersecting map pools. You don't get as much say in the side choice, but you do essentially get to pick the decider. It's a 50-50, but it could be significant depending on who you're playing and what kind of map pools you're working with. For the best of 5, you don't have as much wiggle room. Most teams just ban a map, and then you are forced to play the remaining 5 or up to 5 maps. So this is more of a test of your overall strength of map pool. But you're usually only going to get best of 5s late in the tournament. So teams that are getting that far in the tournament are probably going to have pretty robust map pools. So these are normally pretty entertaining matches for that reason. And then what we're going to be focusing on today the most is the best of 5 in the grand final, where the team from the upper bracket actually gets an advantage. And the reason for this is because in a double elimination bracket, it's designed such as a team can lose a match and recover. They get a second chance. They have another loss that they can take before they're eliminated from the tournament. So if you get to the grand final, there's always going to be a team that hasn't lost a match yet. And as such, it doesn't really make sense for you just to play like a bracket reset where like maybe the winner team loses and then you play another best of 5. It just doesn't really make sense in terms of scheduling. So instead, what Riot does is they give you an advantage in the veto itself. And it doesn't seem like such a big advantage when you boil it down to, well, they haven't lost a match yet. It's actually pretty profound disadvantage. So I'll be breaking it down in a little bit using the case study. But I think the first thing I want to talk about first is touching on permabans, because a lot of people will ask, well, why does a team bother having a permaban? Why don't they just have a 7-map pool? And the answer, to me at least, is fairly simple. It's just straight up easier to have a permaban. It makes your vetoes consistent, because you're never going to be in a scenario where a map that you want to ban is going to be picked before you have an opportunity to ban that map. Say your permaban is Ascent, you can always ban Ascent. It doesn't matter who you play. You're going to be able to get that map out the pool if you wish. So this is why you see a lot of teams have a permaban, because there may be a variety of reasons why you would want a permaban, but it's very easy to implement in tournament play. Now, why this is important is because in the best of 5 with the upper bracket advantage, you do not have that luxury. Let me put this back to here. As you can see here, the team that has the advantage from the upper bracket will be able to choose team A or team B, but whether they're team A or B, they are able to ban 2 maps, which means that the other team is not able to get rid of their permaban. Whether they have a permaban or not, this leaves the door open for a lot of strategy when it comes to targeting maps, both in the pick phase and the ban phase of this veto. So yeah, like it's a pretty profound advantage, and I think it's one that's overlooked. Now, when we consider Fnatic versus EG, these guys played twice in the tournament. Back to here. They played once in the upper final, which was just a regular best of 3. And then again in the grand final after EG defeated PaperX in a regular best of 5. Now, this is how these vetoes went. So Fnatic have been permabanning Pearl the majority of the time, so we weren't surprised to see that go. Same with EG and Bind. And this was a really cool match because Fnatic had been stomping everyone on Lotus recently, and EG had been doing the exact same on Fracture, and EG had to play a whole group stage doing this as well. So we were potentially going to see both teams play their best maps against each other. 2 teams in great form. So yeah, this was a very exciting match, and we got that. They decided to do this. Fnatic ended up banning Ascent second, EG banned Haven, and we were left with Split, which seemed to be a fairly neutral map for both teams, considering Ascent was one of those maps that neither team was really willing to commit to, and Haven was also a second ban for both teams. Now at this point, I want to show you this little tool here, where you can actually illustrate this in a different way. You can categorize every map. You can like drag and drop these, or like left, right click these. Yeah, you can categorize these maps as pick maps, open maps, or ban maps. Pick and ban is pretty self-explanatory. The open maps is just maps that you wouldn't necessarily prioritize as a pick or as a ban. They're just kind of those middling maps in your map pool, which you allow the other team to take action on. So for both teams, you can see that Ascent is an open map for them. And also for both teams, they both prioritize Haven as a second ban. But they obviously have different picks. The interesting thing was Fnatic actually picked Fracture in the one match that they couldn't play Lotus. So it was going to be interesting to see EG pick their best map, which is also seemingly a strong map for Fnatic too. Here is another view as well. This just kind of simplifies the intersecting maps. As you can see here, Haven and Ascent were obviously pretty common, as I just said. And Fracture turned up to be a fairly preferable map for both teams. Now, in the best of 5, this is where things get interesting. And this is where you really see the advantage that the winner team gets. So Fnatic elected to start as Team A, which means that they not only get to ban 2 maps, but they get to start on Lotus, which was obviously going to be huge for their momentum. It's going to be a fantastic map to start on. It's the same map that they started in our last series. They were going to be sitting pretty for the first map, I believe. And yeah, instead of like banning like a Haven or like an Ascent, like a map that would typically show up as a second ban for them, they go for Fracture. And this was obviously targeted towards E. And it was interesting because Fracture is a map that ordinarily they would be happy to play and probably wouldn't necessarily ban against other teams. But because Fracture is so strong for EG, it was a pretty cut and dry decision for Mini and Boaster to get rid of it. The interesting thing for me was, where was Bind going to go? Because to me, I thought it was sensible for Fnatic to want to start on Lotus. Some teams may argue maybe starting on the permaban and punishing it right away could be a good thing. But if you're playing against a team that is an unknown quantity on a map, because it's a permaban, for example, starting on that map first may not be a good thing. And as we saw in the match, EG did pull out a composition that they probably would not have been prepared for, at least in terms of other teams playing it. It was pretty unique at the time. And yeah, they made it a close match. So I think in hindsight, it was a pretty sound decision for Fnatic to leave it as this third map in the series. They did punish pick it, they just didn't play it first in the series. And then on EG's side, I was wondering whether they would go for an Ascent pick instead of a Split, because even though Split is clearly their second preferred map in terms of, you know, the statistics we have available to us, I was wondering whether they would elect to maybe have it a little bit further down the pecking order and instead pick Ascent, which is, if there could be any map in Fnatic's pool that they are potentially weak on, I would say Ascent is that map, just based on how EMEA went. But instead, they went for Split. Ascent ended up as a potential fourth map, and Haven ended up down here as a decider, which was no surprise to anyone considering the fact that neither team really enjoys playing that map. Fnatic ended up winning 3-0. And I think that we really saw the power of this veto advantage for this team. EG didn't really have a lot of places to go after Fracture was taken away. And even though they did put up a decent fight on Bind, in the end, when you look back in the series, it was fairly comfortable for Fnatic. So the point of this is to look ahead to champions, right? And if you are looking at two teams and their map pools and you're trying to figure out who had the advantage in the grand final, consider how important this advantage is for the upper bracket team. And think about how both teams, map pools, how they intersect, and what problems that may cause for both teams in deciding what their veto is. Now, if you want to know a little bit more about vetoes, you want to ask any questions or anything else related to Pro Valorant, I do have a Discord. I'll link it below. It's a Discord designed, well, it's catered towards people with an interest in coaching or analysis or just high-level pro play. We have a like-minded community there. We do things like VOD reviews. We do like prediction competitions, streams, Q&As, stuff like that. So if that's something that you think might interest you, hit the link down below. It will take you to Discord. I'll say hello to you when I'm there. I live on Discord. So yeah, I definitely won't miss it. But otherwise, thank you for watching. I'll see if I make more videos in the future. And yeah, take care. Have a good rest of your day.